mobile software is 10x bigger than anything you'll do on desktop. We're addressing 5 billion people. My kids, the first app they use is photography. They use PhotoRoom. It's like one of the first software you use in your life is photo editing, and probably the last one you'll use too. If you want to be the number one, though, you have to embrace that.
Matt, I am so excited for this. What people don't understand is for me, when I have founders of products that I love, it's 10 times more exciting. So first, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thanks, Harry.
Now, I would love to start. We see PhotoRoom today. What was the aha moment for you that I'm going to dedicate many years of my life to creating this product?
Well, first, I've been working on photo video apps for the past 15 years. I started that on campus at Stanford doing my master. So it's been a long journey. That's why I got in iPhone development was photography in the first place. The aha moment for PhotoRoom is I was at GoPro that has acquired the startup I was working at as a head of product. And we were doing an iPhone app, quick for video editing. We're being featured by Apple. And I don't know if you know these things, but they ask you can you provide artwork for tomorrow? Or yesterday, or very fast. And we were this small startup being acquired, but the US they were sleeping, our designer was off, and tell myself, I'm good with Photoshop, I'm good with computers, let's do it. And I opened my computer and I ended up spending the afternoon literally trying to get what I wanted. I had a clear vision in mind, and it just didn't work. Too many options, I didn't manage to do something I wanted. It was frustrating, and at the same time, I had on the other part of the office, I had the AI team. And I knew they were working on algorithms that were so helpful. And it kind of clicked for me, okay, we need something easier. It needs to get easier. Programming got easier, but editing didn't. And let's build something. There's an opportunity here.
It's amazing how long it took for the world, though, to see the opportunity. Do you know what I mean? I do have to ask, I have this strong investing. I get in trouble for this from the team. But I really don't like investing in first-time founders. I just feel there's so many mistakes that you make when it's your first time. This is your third time. Yeah. What are the big fuck-ups that you made with the first two that you've done differently this time?
So, I started 2 companies and joined a third startup that was acquired. So it's kind of my 4th startup story. I think first one is focus. So really, my second startup, we were doing too many things. We tried to do 2 products. We were not focused. And one thing that worked amazingly well for PhotoRoom is with Elliot, we just from the beginning, every 6 months, we would focus more. So we started with video and photo, and they say okay, let's just do photo. And then we started to say, okay, let's focus on people selling online. And every time we focus, we 10x the number of people signing in, being happy, being very engaged with the product. So I think this one was very helpful.
Can I just, sorry, we'll go to number 2. I just have to ask on that one. Okay, agree. But the challenge is when do you then need to expand again? Because, as we think about moving into enterprise or moving to desktop or moving back to video or moving away from pure, sellers on marketplace or whatever that is, how do we think about when's the right time to expand again?
I mean, when it works, you get product market fit, and you feel the traction, you feel the pull. So I don't think you should expand or be wider as long as you don't sense the pull from that. You might want to pivot a bit, focus on something different if it doesn't work. I mean, as long as you don't have product market fit, you shouldn't expand anything. And so, for instance, we just focused on the iPhone app in the beginning and really create an amazing experience for these users.
So we have intense focus, number 1. What else would we do differently?
Starting a company is especially for curious people, you learn, it's an acceleration of learnings. You get you ship faster, so every time you ship, you learn. And I think after 12 to 15 years in a field, it by heart. You're an expert. So I know mobile apps, I know photo apps. It's the 3rd time I wanted to start subscription, 3rd company, So all these things, you go so much faster in the beginning. So there's just this experience that you learn from that.
Can I ask, do you think the speed of execution is as important as everyone says?
Yeah, definitely. Actually, so we have 3 culture values at PhotoRoom. One of them is instant learning, and literally speed of execution, ship, learn, iterate is one of them. You have a finite time in life, anything life, a career, a path in a company. And the number of things you can learn really depends on how many loops you can get in that. And I really want everyone working with us to think about it. How can you learn faster from what you do, from what you ship? So for us, it's critical. I think Elliot, my co-founder, he's an amazing developer, but he's like the fastest builder I ever met. Like he ships so fast, it's amazing.
Can I ask, how do you think about like instilling learning as a process? And what I mean by that is I find a lot of people like move fast, and they don't actually spend the time to analyze what went right or what went wrong and learn from it. How do you think about learning from the moving fast?
There is no point in shipping fast if you just ship usually you don't ship like really good quality product if you ship fast. So you have to know what you're trying to learn. And that's how you reduce and you condense what you want to ship. Like we always say like, what's the V0 of what you want and what do you want to learn from that? And I think it's a great learning. Like before shipping, try to know what you want to learn from. Otherwise, well, you manipulate the result to say like you've learned something. It's better to like start with an hypothesis and validate it.
Do you know I spoke to a mutual friend of ours before the show, Jacob at Revenue Cat.
Nice.
And I said, what should I ask Matthieu? And he said, ask him about the McDonald's test. And I was like, right, can you help me understand that? And he said, no, you're going to have to ask him. And so I'm like, okay, what's the McDonald's test?
In the early days, and we still do it, like in the street, we would go with Elliot and we would go to McDonald's and literally we would go in the line and offer people like ordering food, like, can we pay for it? And you just test PhotoRoom. And we would run 10 questions about photography, and then we would like let them try the onboarding and really give us feedback. And every time they wouldn't get to the new feature we were trying to do, like it was a new feedback, we discovered something, and it was the best learning experience. It actually comes from the Zenly team. They were doing that in Paris. I did it so much that I got banned from the McDonald's from next to our office. So it's just like I couldn't enter it anymore. Like the security guard would come to me and say, "You can't get in. Like you can't go in because you're bothering your customers."
I'm sorry, I'm naive here. What questions are you asking when you sit down with them?
Two things. First, you want to understand like how they approach your vertical. So for us, it's great. Everyone does photo, and it's a big asset. And so I would ask like, how do you capture your photo? Which app do you use? Like, what do you use them for? Are you using them for fun, for selling, for other stuff? And give you like a kind of an insight. People get comfortable. Well, it's really show, don't tell. Like you show them the app, they download the app, and well, it's very difficult because you get frustrated because you know where you want them to tap, but all the value of it is like them telling you how they feel. What do they understand from the app? What they wish was happening now, and really understanding it's user testing, like really understanding what's the process for them when they see that as a first experience.
When do you listen to customers versus when do you go, great, but we actually have a product roadmap that we're going to execute against?
Yeah, first, I think you get a lot of insight from what they expect. To give you an idea, like we ask people to take a selfie, like to show them how the app is working. And like one of the user testing, we realize, well, some people, if you ask them to take a selfie, first, they think it's to create an account with you. So they're going to spend like actually minutes, like a lot of time in the onboarding, finding the right picture for them because they want to look good. Maybe it's a social network, maybe it's something like this. I would have never guessed that, like if I hadn't seen it, like someone doing it. Well, in the early days, it's also about the blockers, like what people understand, what people see, like what they understand from the product itself. So what we would do with Elliot is really, going back to the office, like changing the feature a bit, changing the wording and getting back to McDonald's and testing it again. Like you shouldn't wait longer than like 1 hour to test again. Yeah, that's how you iterate fast and learn faster.
Can I ask you, and I'm going to apologize for being direct in this interview, but I'm going to apologize once and then just be direct. Some would say like ads, it's like background removal as a service, like cool, but like it's a feature. How do you advise and I'm sure you've been told that respectfully, how do you advise founders who are told that it's a feature, not a product?
Yeah, I think it happens to a lot of entrepreneurs. So it's a great question. What's important is to see the depth in the feature. And I think you become like a product and not a feature the moment you understand like this feature is giving depth to what you can do. And to give you an example, like, okay, you can say background removal. Well, it's like a feature, like you do white background. Well, first, it's useful for some use cases. But like being in the industry for like 10 years before that, I knew, well, yes, but it's not only that. Like first, as a product, you can remove background, but you can also blur. You can like focus on what's important. You can do templates, YouTube thumbnail. Like it's like actually it opens up a lot of opportunities for other features you can build on top of that. So I think seeing this depth that in the product that's coming from it is really important.
Do you think every product starts as a feature and like over time and usage it becomes a product?
Features that are like minimal, lovable product that you execute extremely well are the beginning of a lot of like of successful products. And so I do believe like focusing and making people extremely happy with what you do is more important than like being very wide when you approach something new.
Now, I spoke to many of your investors and got many thoughts back in terms of what we should talk about. The first, which we chatted about before this, was capital efficiency. So you scaled to 20 million in ARR with 2 million of cash.
Yeah.
I've never had that before. I've had the opposite very often, and that's the capital efficient company, by the way, in venture. But like when you reflect on that journey, 20 million ARR, 2 million cash, how did you do this, do you think, so efficiently? When you look back, what are your lessons from that efficient scaling?
I mean, I see capital as a mean, like it's a tool and you can deploy it. But we never saw like, we never came from with the idea of like, okay, let's be as like, not spend money and let's like, we reinvest like everything we can in the growth.
So it wasn't conscious, let's save money, let's be super lean, let's save money.
I think we like the idea of being lean and like, but we always pay for the best tools. Like, so we're not lean on like the best tool for the team. I think we really like to hire like individual contributor and that's part of our culture, but that's, I mean, it's an externality that you're lean on that part. We just want to move fast and we know like small team move faster. I think that's one of the reasons why we were very efficient. And then there is thinking like macro. I think there is the App Store story, which is a big part of it. Like, so Apple and Google, they're like the App Store on mobile, they're giving you distribution. Yes, they take like a cut of it, but basically it means they offer like a worldwide distribution to 5 billion people, and you don't need like a big marketing sales team to do that. So it's very capital efficient, like a very small team, product team can go a very long way. In terms of capital efficiency, like one of the secrets of mobile apps is people are willing to pay upfront. And so, I mean, you have a payback of 1 month, so you don't need that much capital on the ad side.
Fuck the schedule. A payback of 1 month. What are the CACs today?
I mean, you have our, I won't give the exact number on that, but like you can see like how much like people pay on a yearly subscription, and you just get the money back in 1 month.
Got you. Okay, and so people, tell me what I can and can't ask. How many people pay monthly versus annually?
If you want to be efficient and you want to be able to scale like fast, like us, I think jumping on the yearly by default is the best option, and it's actually how you create like also like retain users. So most of people like going on yearly is a really good way to scale.
Yeah, no, I totally get you. It was staying on the capital efficient before we move on to kind of the mechanics of the business. So my mind wanders. Is there anything that you didn't spend on that you now look back on and you're like, you could have or should have spent on that earlier?
Not really. Like we took one of the best office in Paris, super bright. Again, one of the consequences of like being very demanding in the people you hire is you have a small team, and a lot of things have like a paper seat, like an office is a paper seat model, tools are a paper seat model. So you can pay a high price because the team is so like professional, so experienced. So I don't remember like a moment where we say like we should have bought that like earlier.
When you look back on those early days, is there anything that you wish you'd done that you hadn't done?
We hired great people, so you need to try. Like you can't be like 100%. You don't get the right person 100% of the time, but for sure.
Do you agree with hire fast, fire fast?
One thing we do is we work a lot with freelancers, and that's like a great way because they have so many opportunities, so they're willing to like try. And we say we're a team of entrepreneurs serving like entrepreneurs. This is our main audience, so it goes great with our culture. We give them a lot of freedom and autonomy, but you need to know like really fast. You should be able to know in a few months like if it's the right person or not. So,
how do you know whether to hire a freelancer or a full-time?
For us, like if the person is like willing to, I think you learn a lot from working 1 week together. We love this model. People come to the office. It's actually less risk for them, like because the culture is such an important part. Like when you're going to put like a few years of your life.
Okay, so essentially you hire them as a freelancer first. They come for 1 or 2 months, see how it is, and then it's like, hey,
a few weeks, even like
You know, in a couple of days, I find.
Yeah, and they ask for. I mean, usually people are super happy to do that. Like they love to try and to like they have so much demand, and they don't want to commit like to a job, and sometimes they have already like their status. They might be working with other companies at the same time, so we're very successful working with freelancer. A big part of the team has been freelancing at some point. I've been freelancing,
Still are. As a family, you're always unemployed.
Exactly.
I always joke with my family that I'm unemployed. That's why I have my own thing.
I'm putting myself out of my job all the time. That's the CEO thing.
No, I love that. So yes, I like that. Freelancers as well, like as you said, in terms of testing the culture, I think that's so important. Have you always had good culture?
We spent a lot of time. I remember sitting with Elliot, like working, even for our first hire, like thinking what are going to be the 3 pillars of our culture, what matters to us. I think we did the process quite early on, indeed.
What were the other 2 pillars? You mentioned the first about the shipping, iterating.
Yeah, the first one is challenge toward progress. Kind of, candid feedback. Like if there is, like, you should be able to challenge anything in the company if you think it's not going great, or even if it's not your field. Second one is instant learning. So really this idea of shipping and learning from that, and how like really we're all learners. And the last part is be an artisan. We are all makers, and we really love like people that master their craft and are making, are crafting and are the best at their craft, sharing that part with others, learning from others. So yeah, be an artisan, and that's the name of the entity in France. So.
So when we look at the scaling, as we said, 2 million in, 20 million of ARR, at some point around there, I believe one of your investors said there was kind of a plateau in the growth. What happened with the plateau? Why does that happen?
First, exceptional growth. Actually, I think YC say like we were one of they never saw a company growing that fast, like with this much capital, so this low capital. So indeed, it's quite uncommon. Growth happens with like it's a step function, So you kind of unlock new things, and you just need to be patient and talk a lot to your user, like getting back to talking to them, understanding what are their pain points, and exploring that.
Is it challenging when you have a slight plateau? As you said, you can't always be growing up and to the right continuously, and so it's step functions. Is it challenging with team morale when you have a growth plateau?
We're very like focused and driven by growth, so you can kind of like I think people don't improve something they don't look at, like numbers they don't look at. So we talk about growth every week, and so people are happier when there is growth, so you have to be careful with that. But like the company is growing amazingly well, we are profitable, so it just like take a step back and understand what are the kind of adjacent needs of your user, and go even deeper with that. I mean, it happens all the time, so you don't want to hire people that are here just for growth. You want to hire people that are here for the mission you're solving.
You said about kind of the focus on metrics there, and metrics move when you pay attention to them. What defines a successful user to you? When you think about the metrics that you focus on, what are they? It's
quite simple. A user who's like successful is a user exploring X number of photos every week. So it's really like someone who is engaged and who is successful, like creating
so the number of exports per week is like defined as the successful user.
Yeah, I think, in terms of metrics, I think it's really always better to talk about people. So it's like number of people doing that, like doing one export every week. So a weekly active user is like an amazing signal for us, and a signal of someone who's active. But I really love when people like think of not numbers, but people in the numbers. So I always have like this number of people doing something, not like number of exports per week.
Yeah, I get that. Can I ask you, when you think about like whether it's a weekly or daily, how do you think about PhotoRoom? Is it a daily use case product, a weekly use case product, monthly?
We love our like sellers and people like doing e-commerce. That's one of the best persona, and kind of our early metric. People do list like on a weekly basis. So for us now, it's more of a weekly pattern we see with the app.
How helpful was it from a product marketing? So I recently did a show with Matt from Cloudflare, and it originated because I said, actually, focus is the most important thing. Have a very, very specific ICP, because it will allow you to have way tighter product marketing, much better use of customer acquisition channels, da 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 da. He was like, what a load of crap. He was like, it should go horizontal. You don't know who's going to use your product. You don't know how they're going to use it. What a load of rubbish.
Interesting.
And my point is, like, when you think about the sellers, you can so efficiently product market to them in the early days and today, because you know exactly the sellers on these 3 platforms make it. Product marketing is much tighter, no?
I think you can combine both. So we have 100 million downloads. Like obviously not all of them are sellers. I think the focus is saying like, okay, I'm going to only develop like these features for this persona, like a seller, someone on Shopify. But then it's fine. Like you're not going to block other people to access like your platform. We have an API. Like people can use your API the way they want. Like, and you learn a lot from it. But I think it's really important in your product development roadmap when you focus to say, okay, we're going to like to focus on this persona. It's going to be beneficial to others, but the way we build it is for this person.
I think it's really important to have that focus. Can I ask, in terms of acquisition channels, how did the acquisition channels look in the early days? When you were growing really fast, where were they coming from?
The early days, I mean, it's word of mouth. So the kind of the story, and it's kind of our DNA of PhotoRoom, is we got product market fit in the early 2020. Gary V mentioned us. We got a few eBay influencers that talked about us, and we got viral, like a very fast growth.
Immediately?
Yeah, it grew super fast. And 1 month later, there was COVID. So, like it wasn't easy. I was with, we were 2 co-founders. I was with the 2 kids by then. So that was the tough part. But from one day to another, everyone, can't sell offline. So you all need to go online with your products. And you can't access a photographer because you can't meet with other people. So to be honest, like looking back, I didn't realize back then, but we got product market fit, and like 1 month later, COVID hit. So it's like it just like doubled down on our growth and it was the PhotoRoom watermark. So if you go on any marketplace, you'll see PhotoRoom watermark on a lot of listing, and that like got the viral growth.
Can I ask a weird one? Do you want people to remove the watermark? Because it's great advertising for you. But you also want them to pay, and so it's
right. In mobile subscription, like you always have, there's always 10x at least more people that are going. There are always people that are never going to pay for it, and there are always like at least 10x more people that are going to be on the free plan. So the numbers, like it makes sense. And actually, we have a lot of people that do screenshot. They do screenshot of the image in the editor and just like remove the watermark this way. And we actually measure it. It's big, but I think it's fine. Like people are using the product. If they use it a lot, at some point they'll pay.
Is there a way to prevent that?
At some point you're happy with people. It's a mass scale audience. I think you can find ways to go around that, the hacking. But the history of software is kind of famous for Photoshop, like people hacking Photoshop. So we kind of live with it, and it's not like focus on growth and focus on delivering value rather than like blocking people. It's a growth mindset,
I remember like 2006 or whatever it was with like Nicolas doing the music streaming Kazaa.
Yeah.
It's like people will always steal digital products.
Yeah, it's part of it's software, so marginal cost is 0, and like, okay, just do other, build for the people who are paying, don't build for people that won't pay anyway. They go to another app.
What's the number one reason why people churn today?
What people say is they don't need it anymore. Moving on, and I think, moving on to another app or another need.
When you, and maybe you're not allowed to say this, what's your yearly churn?
Yeah, I think, I won't give you the exact number, but that's the thing I would love to know from all competitions. So I think it's if there's one number.
Is that the holy grail number, do you think?
Yeah, I think it's the one that you'll love to know, yeah.
If I'm just totally honest, I'm generally more of an enterprise investor.
Yeah.
And when I look at consumer subscription, I've had this out with Nico adjacent, and I do, when they're churning 30, 35%, I'm not saying this is you, but just consumer subscription, 25 to 40% of their customers every year. How do we make that business work?
Yeah, the dynamic is, for us, it's really focusing on people who are deeply engaged and deep focused. I think you need to live with the idea of like mobile software is like 10x bigger than anything you'll do on desktop anyway. So you have we're addressing like 5 billion people. My kids, the first app they use is photography. They use PhotoRoom. It's like one of the first software you use in your life is photo editing, and probably the last one you'll use too. And if you want to be the number one, though, you have to embrace that. So, you're addressing 5 billion people. It's much bigger than anyone else, for sure, any SaaS business. Well, people will test the app, will try it out. Then you want to focus on the one that matters the most for you. And so that's like, get the question, get the usage, get the analytics to understand, okay, this one is one we really like, and let's focus and let's make it like marvelous for them. Let's delight them. But it's really, the top of funnel is huge, and you shouldn't you should embrace that for a mobile subscription.
I'm just going for this because I'm too intrigued. I see, obviously, we use all different tools. We use Canva for certain things, I think thumbnails. We use you for a lot of our visuals on the shows themselves in terms of the album artworks and headshots in particular, removing backgrounds. Everyone's kind of coming into each other's space. Do you know what I mean? Like suddenly you've got, Canva moving into other people's space, Adobe moving into other people's space, you moving up. And I'm looking at it going, I don't know how this plays out because everyone's trying to just eat all of the pie. How do you think it plays out when you look at your PhotoRoom, your Canva, your Adobe, your Mojo, what happens?
We are like a very fast growth track. The opportunity, I think, is huge. As I told you, like a 5 billion people. What we really thrive for is making photo, like studio quality photo, accessible to like anyone, like any professional, any entrepreneur in the world. And I think for that, we focus on like a different use case than like Canva, which is more for design on your desktop, or Adobe, which is for the experts. Like Adobe is for the tens of millions of people that are spending the day in front of their computer and they're experts. They know their job. They make money from that. We are providing the service for people that can't afford that. So we're making it more accessible. It's 10x more people because they're on their phone and it's a wider audience. But I actually don't think it's the same product that you can develop. You need to like choose the one, and we'll all make like more than $1 billion in revenue. I mean, Adobe is already doing it, and Canva close to that.
Canva's well over.
Yeah, so Canva is well over. Well, we're on the same track, and we'll be doing $1 billion for a different audience.
So now's the time to invest in PhotoRoom.
Always.
No, do you need to move into enterprise?
Well, we already...
And do you need to move into desktop?
Our customers are like small businesses or B2B. So we help them make more money, and that's when they pay. So this is our audience today. Then enterprise, we already like, that was we started with the PhotoRoom API. So we have like iOS, Android, web API. We can render the same thing, which is quite unique. And we were very successful with the API. You sense a strong pull. And so last May, you get the Barbie movie.
Yeah.
And they
love a bit of Margot Robbie.
Yeah,
come on.
Exactly. And they did like a big part of their marketing was using PhotoRoom to create like a Barbie poster for anyone in their audience. So they use our tech. It was a partnership, and anyone like not a pro could create pro quality posters. And I mean the Kardashian, Rihanna, they use that, tens of millions of users, and that's like the API is taking off with that. And that's one example. We also have the Walt team, like for food delivery, and they just same thing. Like they make a crowd, a community, like create studio quality photos or posters, look professional for the restaurant, and the people sell more. That's what we've been doing for the four past year. We're just delivering to more people with the enterprise part and the API.
I totally get you. Can I ask, what worries you most when you look at the future of the space? What concerns you?
I think, as you say, like the field is moving very fast, and AI is making a lot of product like kind of obsolete. So you have to think of like to make sure you're building like an old product with new tech. I think that's a very important part. To give you an example, the first company I made, I was trying to make like postcards and print them from my smartphone. And well, looking back, the obvious answer is like, okay, that's not what you want to do. You want with the new smartphone, you want to create Instagram. Like you want to share an image of where you are and share it with your friends. That's like the new product with the new tech. And I think it's very important for PhotoRoom, like when the tech is moving that fast to, okay, what's the new way of doing that? Not like the old way with this tech. And so you need to, destroy your product all the time.
Do you think founders today are using new tech, being AI, to solve old problems?
Well, I don't think like doing that exactly works. I mean, especially for new founders, work at all. I think what's happening with AI is you have like old past products that are building tech to serve their existing customers. So if you take an example, like this is the idea of the Copilot, right? I mean, if you're an incumbent, you're a car maker, you're going to build like the navigation part, you're going to build like some security features, but it's just on top of what's already existing. If you're the newcomer, if you're the founder, you're building the Tesla, you're building the autopilot part where the input is like, I want to go to this place. I want it to be like a scenic drive, and boom, it gets it done.
I do want to dive into kind of the depths of AI because I think it's important. If we just start from the top, the one thing that I'm always questioning is like, what's more important? Is it model size or is it data size?
It's a question that comes, often. That's a great question. I think on data, what matters is quality more than size, and on the model size, it's a trade-off. So it depends on what we want to do. Like bigger is like higher quality, but it's also a lot slower. And what PhotoRoom does is like being 10x faster than everything on the market because we are focusing on one use case. So you can take smaller model because you have like a specific use case, and that's key. So it's kind of a product trade-off when you talk to your customer. And again, that's one thing we do is we talk a lot to the users and understand what are the trade-offs they want to have with the AI part.
Can I ask you, when you look at what you've done with your own models, given the size of your team, is that worrying for the future of AI in terms of commoditization?
I think who benefits the most from first, like the leader in the space, like own the full stack. So you look at ChatGPT, they do like the product and the AI part. I do think you need to own the full stack if you want to deliver high quality product. The tech informs the product and the product informs the tech, and you build this like a feedback loop. What's the what is it worrying for the commoditization? I don't think so, because what's important for PhotoRoom is the AI part is in our DNA. Like Elliot, my co-founder, is like he wrote the book on computer vision, So, and I also trained some models. Like before, I've been working on AI for the past 10 years, and any commoditization make us faster and benefits from the people knowing AI. Actually,
do you think the foundational models will be commoditized though? Like, would you be a buyer of OpenAI
for what we're not specialize in, like text, we'll build on top. I mean, that's what we do all the time. We start from like something that's open source, commoditized, to understand the product value, but then you need to, if you don't want to be if you want to build a moat, you have to understand what to train and iterate for your own model. So I do think commoditization brings value to the innovation for like open source, but then the best player will be able to like retrain something on top of it. And it's not really commoditized. There is value in having the tech and understanding the training in that side.
I always think, when we talk about kind of data size and model size, the amount of data required will bluntly go down so significantly in terms of what it takes to train models.
Yeah.
At some point, there's like an asymptote. When is that? When does it reach like minimal requirement?
Yeah, I think you still need like from text and photo, you still you need billions of data points to train.
You need billions of data points.
So for text, for instance, you still need millions. It's not and more data for a bigger model would be valuable. So it depends on the size of the model you want to build.
Who do you think benefits more today? Is it incumbents or is it startups?
Yeah, I think both benefits from it. Like it's a reshuffling. But to be honest, one of the reasons I told you the Inception story, but another part of it is like I had been working on AI. So we were the first to ship like a Caramel, before Caramel exists, so the iPhone framework, an app with AI to do video editing at GoPro. One of the frustration for me is like it's very difficult when you have an existing audience and an existing user base, an existing product to just kill it or destroy it and like build something new. So I think long term the most valuable who benefits the most are the entrepreneurs. And what I'm like paranoid about is more like what is this new team of Matt and Elliot are going to build like in 2023 that is going to be something we haven't seen in the space.
How do you feel about the co-pilot strategy? I had someone on the show say it's the last dying breath of incumbents, which I quite liked.
That's I'm quite aligned with that. It's quite brutal for them, and I'm sure some will survive. But I think the problem is where I see that being very true is if you have an audience today, like you have programmers, you have designers. Well, you don't want to alienate them. You want to give them extra value. So you're kind of thinking, what can I build for them that makes their life easier? But you don't want to like have something that's kind of an autopilot to replace them. That's why I take the Tesla analogy. Like if you're making planes, like you bring a co-pilot technology, but who's buying the planes, the airline and the pilots? And you're not going to like sell an airplane with no pilot at once. They're going to go on strike and everything. So I think the autopilot.
So how do you do it transitionally? Because you can't say, hey, we're going to replace you.
Yeah. No, that's why I agree with your quote. Like it's very difficult for the incumbent to say like, okay, we're going to like kill the product you've been using, make it totally different and make you useless. So that's very difficult, where I think what's very interesting for the autopilot analogy is you address people that couldn't afford that before. That's what PhotoRoom is doing. And you have a small business, you can't afford like a freelancer to help you. You don't have the skills, you don't have the time. If you take the co-pilot analogy, if you take the co-pilot analogy, you don't have the time to learn to drive because the co-pilot just tells you where to go, but you still need a driver, right? And so you spend like tens of thousands of hours learning to drive, and then you're good. Well, for design, people don't have tens of thousands of hours when they're starting a restaurant. They should be cooking, you know? So what we give them is more like an autopilot where they come up with like their restaurant where it is, and we just like serve that to them. Like we serve the visual, we automate that part.
What do you think are the biggest misconceptions people have around AI? I spent a lot of time obviously with Jan LeCun, who's I think an angel in the company, no?
Yeah. Jan is
what do you think are the biggest misconceptions that people have?
It's only the beginning. Like product, I mean, so not optimized. Like there's so much thing people are going to build on top of what's happening right now. So it's just one person done. Like it's opening so much thing you can build on top of. Like it's easier to build new ways to consume content. So that's like people that kind of judge like this is not high quality enough. Like people have spent like a few months on that. PhotoRoom is 3 years old. So, you know, it's only the beginning. A more like practical thing, I think is a second misconception is people don't like to write prompts. Like it's kind of a command line interface, and for a lot of things, it doesn't make sense to to input text. I would say.
So I'm fascinated by that. People don't like to input prompts. I totally agree with you. So what do you think that the command line interface of the future is? I
mean, like we have software today. Like every use case, we have a different way of doing the input. I mean, for a use case, we say for a human, an image is worth 1,000 words. Well, it's true for machines too. Like from one photo, you get like more than 10,000 words of 1,000 words of things you can build on top of. So I think the input will depend on what's the job you want to get done, and we'll have a lot of changes in the way, kind of the atomic part of UX. Like maybe keyboard doesn't make as much sense on a smartphone in 6 months or stuff like
Do you think UI becomes less or more important in a world where AI is first? Again, I guess on the show recently said UI total BS in a world of AI first. Like actually, you'll speak to your phone more. You'll have less of a physical relationship with your phone because you're not inputting things.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't say that. I think UI will change dramatically.
How does it change?
I don't think like the keyboard, for instance, if you can like dictate, it's such a pain on a smartphone to like pull out of the screen with a keyboard. So I think this should go away. Like it's kind of an anomaly in time. For photo editing, I don't think it makes sense to have like layers and mask and pixels. Like this is like an abstraction that should go away in the UI. And there are many things like this, like voice is going to be more affordable. So I don't know what are going to be exactly, and no one really knows like the input in the future. But a lot of unstructured data from today, like images, voice, are going to be much more understandable by people and by software. Sorry. And I think it does change, like mobile change a lot, like with touchscreen. Well, I do think like AI is going to change a lot of that.
Does the business model of the future change in AI? Will we still have per seat? Will we move a lot of people say, well, we'll move to a consumption-based model. You know how there's like conventional wisdom that people just say now? It's like everyone's like consumption-based to me.
It's a great point. I think as much as you want, like, you want to have like you want to align the value you create with what the users are buying, like, and
I was thinking about this in bed. I was thinking about this in bed last night. You can tell I need to get out more, but like all power is just over 30 years shifting to consumer. Yeah. When you think about like the old, so you remember buying CDs, and it's like old enterprise licenses, you spend like 50,000 and boom, you get it. And then it's like per seat, you can turn it up, you can turn it down, add more, take less off, and then consumption is like the ultimate. If you don't use it, you don't pay.
Yeah, I think the more in the business model you can align with your customers, the better. Seats is a convenient way for a lot of people. I do think some part of service can be automated in some ways. I mean, if you have an agency, for instance, let's say like a model is closer to an agency for an autopilot. Agency autopilot, it sounds similar. You kind of pay your agency on the result as much as you like. So if they do a good job, like you pay them a bit more. So I think that would be ideal. But it's difficult to say. Like I think as much as like going back to first principle, you want to have a system of alignment of interest and the best business model, like success in that.
Can I ask, we mentioned text versus video there and also images as well. When we think about kind of cost of query, for your business model, it's much more expensive, I imagine, like the cost per query given images versus say text.
Yeah.
How does that change when comparing text versus image?
So indeed, like GPUs are a bit more expensive. It's more a Gen AI thing, so the cost of GPUs, but I think it will go down. But one thing that is going to come is coming. We are making it's day one or month one of Gen AI. So we came up with an improvement, like open source it. Image generation is 2x faster, So I think it's just like a question of time, and in a few months, the cost of generation for text and image will go down a lot.
Wow, it is in the month-long cycles.
Yeah, like definitely. One of the reasons we are training our own model is also to go faster and be able to serve like more users with that.
Do you think VCs are overexcited about generative AI? Like, is the hype reaching hype bubble?
It's kind of amplified too much. I do think like it's one of the biggest opportunity of the decade, at least for entrepreneurs. Starting from that, but maybe they overhype that part even more than it is.
Do you think 99% of VC dollars today invested in generative AI will go to zero? And maybe they need to for development to happen, but still go to zero.
Well, what's the success rate for a startup is like 5%, right? So it's just saying...
I don't know about that. I don't know the actual success rate on getting a 1x back. But like a lot of startup, and it's like, what is success? Yeah. Like, $1 billion companies, I don't know, 0.5%, 0.25%, whatever it is. But like, actually, companies that lose all your money, quite rare.
Yeah, all right.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah. People are very ambitious. They're like doing very research-based. A lot of companies are doing research-based AI. I think that's what's quite unique about PhotoRoom is we're really doing like user-centric AI. And when you do research, I think the failure is higher than like when you're building a product. So
what's user-centric AI?
Well, again, we use the feedback from the users to like learn with the model. And what we do is we learn from how they use the product. I told you about not writing prompts, but we really develop the app not for the user not to have to write prompts in the app. We realize on a mobile phone, like people don't want to wait. So we make image generation like less than 1 second. And that's like a killer feature because no one does it. And so that's kind of, you make architectural choice of your model that are based on the user feedback and learning them like fail in McDonald's using your app kind of,
Dude, I love the McDonald's test. I think that's amazing. Can I ask, when we spoke about a little bit about your kids beforehand, your children will be generative AI first generation children.
Yeah.
What does that mean for how they think about the world, culture, identity? How do you think about that?
I mean, for product development, it's always been super interesting to see, like a good app is an app that a 5-year-old can use it. We actually use that internally. We have this Hermione model of like an ideal customer. And one part of that is like, a 5-year-old should be able to use PhotoRoom in terms of accessibility. And you see them like all the natural thing. It's amazing how quickly they understand the UX. So I think a few things, like I mentioned the keyboard. Well, my kids are super literate at dictating to ChatGPT app. Like, can you answer this question about dinosaur? I'm curious, to give you an example. Or about image editing, like Dad, can you PhotoRoom that? So first they take PhotoRoom as a word, and then they would just move around objects as it makes sense. Like moving object on an image like makes a lot of sense, and that's what we make. That's very different from other apps, photo editing apps. Like just select what you want to move.
Many people have said to me, we're going to have multi-billion-dollar companies with 10 people. And that, we're really going to see differences in terms of capital efficiency to build massive business. Do you agree with that? Or will we just find new jobs for them to do?
Well, I don't. I agree on the trend. I think like every I don't know what's the number, but every 3-4 years, like software efficiency makes it possible for a 3x like smaller team to make the same amount of revenue than a bigger team, and that's actually a big opportunity for entrepreneurs and investment. I think this will definitely happen. Like a 10 people team doing $1 billion in revenue. We're like pushing for that, like on impact. Like we actually measure how much revenue per teammate we have at PhotoRoom. So that's one thing we look at it.
Is that good? I know that obviously it's incredible when you look at your revenue per head today, but does that not sometimes don't add another person to it because it's going to make our...
No, we don't. It's a trend. Like the Stripe brothers, Collison brothers, where actually it's one thing they were doing really early on is like, how do you measure the impact of a teammate? And that's a good way of looking at it. You don't want not to hire someone you need because of that, obviously. And we doubled the team in like the past 6 months. So we are like growing very fast.
Is that difficult for you? To suddenly double the team. As you said, 3 years actually relatively constrained, and then the last 6 months double team.
I mean, there's it started all about scaling, so there are new challenges coming, but the quality of the people we hire, like I'm so excited. We make people come back from the California, like move to France or Europe to like scale. And as long as you hire the best people in the field, I think it's very exciting. You have to organize. That's put yourself out of job, structure the team. That's the founder's jobs. And it's always challenging, but it's really exciting and cool.
I spoke to Jan LeCun before the show, and he change in life. If you could call yourself up the night before your first, you have 3 now, and say, you know, Matt, you should know this, what would you tell yourself?
I think it's very difficult to know what it is beforehand, and you have a lot of principle before the kids. First you have principle, and then you have kids, I guess. And there are a lot of things you want to like. There are other things you'd like to do, but you don't have time to. But it's an amazing experience.
Do kids make you a better leader?
You have to think how you can like make them grow. You have to like and really be an example for them. So, and I believe strongly that the best way to lead is like showing a strong example of the way you should do it, like hardworking, transparent about you do, like being an example. And I think that's the best way to lead and teach.
Do you believe in balance?
Not too much. I think I like to do things 100%. But I do have like the kids and I see them, but there's some balance to find in that.
Is that tough?
Yeah, it's tough on that part.
Do you see the kids much?
Yeah, I spend a lot of time with them. Yeah, I do. No, it's amazing.
Your wife's gonna be listening to this. Like, she's
going to say not enough. She's going to say not enough.
There's
for sure.
Always more time.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, we're gonna do a quick fire. So I say a short statement, you give me your immediate thoughts. Does that sound okay?
Yeah.
So what do others not know that you know to be true?
Well, people don't like to write prompts. I would say that. That's a funny one.
Will prompts be gone in 5 years?
No, I think it makes sense. There's still the command line interface, but I think it will still be there, but it's kind of for the expert.
OpenAI, long or short?
I mean, I'm long on the team is sharp. They have a brand now, and yeah, Sam is super sharp, so I'm long on them.
What's the biggest misconception, like the single biggest on AI? You're like, oh, for fuck's sake, why are they saying this again?
Yeah, again, like prompts. No, I'm going to say something else. People kind of judge the result, but it's moving so fast. It's like people don't understand how like a 5-people team came up with an algorithm, or like a 10-people team. And so like now there's optimization, there's product building. So it's really just the beginning of building super useful, exceptional products on top of it.
You can have dinner with anyone in the world, dead or alive. Who do you have dinner with?
I love like visual arts and science and tech. So, well, Steve Jobs is maybe a cliche. Walt Disney, maybe?
I think it's a good one. Which brand do you most respect and why? So like mine is like Chanel. Like Paris, you have mothers that love them. In China, you have teenagers that love them. America.
I was going to say Nike.
Why?
In the sense that it enables people, like this idea of pushing people to be like to do more, like just do it, entrepreneurs, and I kind of love that part.
What's the strongest belief you had which turned out to be wrong?
I had a very strong belief that you can only innovate and be creative in person. Well, we started PhotoRoom with Elliot, and COVID hit, and we just like, okay, it's time to build a remote company and be hybrid. And while we're thriving, we are very international, so it really changed my mind on that.
So now you're hybrid? Yeah,
we meet once a month in Paris. Like we have a beautiful HQ, but the team is all over Europe, and that brings like so much diversity to the team and to the product we build. And it's such a pleasure to work with like different nationalities from all over the world.
Are you in the office every day?
Yeah, I am.
But the team don't need to be?
No, like 30%, a third of the team is in the office there every day.
And then once a month they come in, probably.
Yeah, it's the most amazing time. Like with the Barbie, we did like a Barbie team day about that. Like we were very creative. I think creativity is a muscle. So we just like find new activities all the time. And this is kind of the home of the team.
What's better and what's worse about being hybrid?
It's more diverse. I had like kind of the glass ceiling at GoPro of being like 30 French dudes, and you don't account for all the needs of everyone. And now I think we have a more inclusive, more diverse way of developing product, and and you learn so much from people from different fields and different countries. The worst part is there are a few like fine details on building, crafting products that are not always as easy to get. I think tools will come for that, but that would be the worst part.
Yeah, no, I do get you. I also think like share of voice is better when it's done remotely. Like people don't feel as intimidated to speak up in a lot of cases.
That's right. I think if you do, especially we have a very transparent culture. We have a no DMs culture. So like you don't write DMs. Like it's an open space. Your Slack is an open space, and we just do thread. Like people whispering. You know that we try to be organized on that. But I think it brings a lot of people can speak up, and a very like high transparency culture on that.
So I have to ask on that. No DMs. So if you are with Elliot and you're like, Harry's not performing. Do you agree with me? That would be on a DM, no?
Yeah, I mean, no DM as a policy, except like on like salaries or stuff.
Or performance management, letting people go.
Yeah, but we do like as I said, like the first, like if there's something you want to challenge someone towards, like it should be public, like especially. So we try as much as possible to do it. And it's a good like way to start from. Like the default should be DM. I don't know. You don't want to take some kind of screen estate in the channel and don't say something you think people don't care. But it kind of brings this transparency, this openness to like just speak in the open.
How impactful was YC?
It's been like one of the best decisions for the company. Like it really, I think it puts us on the 1 billion trajectory, 1 billion revenue.
Why? Just like, what did they do? I'm just intrigued.
As a product builder, you come with like a lot of insights, a lot of things you want to build. And you're not like, I made a lot of progress on for instance, storytelling, and really being efficient at scaling. I mean, that's kind of a bias. Like you don't do YC if you don't want to scale and do like $1 billion in revenue. So I think it's like a nurturing and bias phenomenon, but like, and we still talk to them. Like we still talk to our partners all the time, and they're like really helpful.
Who are the partners?
We're with Gustav and Eric.
Got you. Yeah, fantastic. And then final one, if we think about PhotoRoom in 10 years' time, which is 2033, where are we then, Matt?
You know, our vision is, I talked about Nike, but really what we want to give is every entrepreneur, every like professional, the power to create like Nike level visuals. So really, I mean, you have this kind of visual agency that's powered by AI that does the job and automate that, iterates. Design is, a reaction from, so it's evolving fast. It really increases the quality of the content that's generated, segmented for all the, even small entrepreneur. Like the trend is like there are more and more like small businesses, very small businesses selling on Shopify, on Amazon, on marketplaces. So we're going towards a more diverse world in terms of e-commerce. And we're just helping people to thrive in that, to be proud of what they do, like good visual for your show, or like you're proud of yourself when you have good content, like the TikTok content is amazing, for instance. So we want them to be proud of what they do. Like they're a chef, you start a restaurant. It's great to be proud of what you do and to be unique, like generating something unique for them.
I totally agree with you. I so appreciate that on the TikTok, on the visuals. I have you to thank for that. I've wanted to do this one for a long time. This is such a pleasure to do, Matt. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks, Harry. Great questions.